Welcome to the TikTok Podcast. The clock is always ticking, so let's synchronize our watches and dive in. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and I'm here to help you make time for what matters. Hey friends, welcome back to our part 3 in our series. I think this is one of our very first official series that we've done. I hope that you've enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun to hear from you, to have some discussions, to have some ahas when it comes to the momtrepreneurs of the world. The entrepreneurs, the mompreneurs, we've kind of used those words interchangeably. And we're going to recap just real quickly and then dive into the last part 3 of this series, particularly when we're talking about mompreneurs in the summertime, when things are a little wonky. They're a little crazy. They're a little interesting. That's always a word that I like to use. So, our part 1, we talked about how not to work, how it is healthy and honorable to be able to know when to stop working for the day, know when to take a little break, have a little breather, recharge. That one of the things that an entrepreneur can fall into the trap of is being a workaholic and to work all the time or to feel guilty when we are not working. So we tackled that. How did you feel about that? Has your hands been kind of like shaken a little bit out of, I don't know how to not be by my phone? Or are you starting to embrace that? Hopefully, the latter. And then, second, we talked about in part 2 how and when to work. How and when to work. So, mapping it out, having a game plan, using the tools like the brain drain that you can find in the show notes and the weekly plan sheet. Not buying into excuses that you don't know how and when to work. Understanding and valuing our high energy times so we can max those out and giving ourselves a little grace when needed to. So here we are in part 3. We should have it all figured out now, right? We're working, we're taking time off. But what I really want to narrow down today and talk about with some tips, I think it's 6 tips for you, is that there is a difference, by the way, about thinking about working and actually working. So, anybody ever think that way? Anybody feel that way that you're like, man, I should be seeing more results? Like, why am I not progressing? Why am I not growing? Why am I not feeling accomplished? And maybe it's because we're just thinking about it, right? And we can even be exhausted from thinking about it, but that's really all we've done is we haven't put action to what we're thinking about. So maybe another way of looking at this too is sometimes we're thinking about it so much because we are overwhelmed. It seems like too much, therefore we don't get started. We would get started if we kind of knew where or we feel like we could accomplish it, but the getting started part is hard because we are overwhelmed. So, after these last 2 weeks of tips, if you're still feeling overwhelmed, if maybe you feel like you're dropping the ball or you're not getting enough work done or seeing those results like we talked about or getting enough sleep, these tips are for you today. Here we go. Okay. And you'll have to just, again, give me grace on this voice of mine. We're all good. So carry on with me. And if you are watching on YouTube, if you like to do that, you'll see just a quick little rabbit trail here, shiny ball. I am wearing another hat today. So 3 weeks in a row of hats. And really, it's more because it's summer and there are days that I just don't want to do my hair. And also, it's a reminder to me of which hat I'm wearing. Sometimes I'm wearing 10 at a time, but I really try to wear one at a time, which leads me to tip number 1. So here we go, segue into that. Tip number 1, chunk things down. That's just, I mean, there's other fun ways to say that and probably more classy ways, but I just like that word. Chunk things down. One of the biggest things that I've noticed when it comes to procrastination, which usually leads people to neglecting their plan, their schedule, their brain drain, their weekly plan, is that the tasks that they've set for themselves are too big. So, tip number 1, we're going to chunk things down. If the task can't be done in 1 to 2 simple steps, it probably needs to be broken down further. Here's an example. For the longest time, a task on one of my clients' to do lists, so one of my clients I was coaching with, was to update her website. And it was always on the list. It just sat there forever. Have you ever done that where you've got your list and you're like, and here we go again? Okay. So just repeat, repeat, repeat. It's always on there. And then you start to feel all kinds of ways about it. You feel guilty. It feels like a bigger task than it should be. So this task was on her list forever. And we finally recognized it, realized it, and I decided to help her chunk it down. And we created multiple tasks under that, such as write the copy for the homepage. Okay. Or update your sign up form or update your banner photos. And believe it or not, after a week, she mostly had it all done. So it just was too big of a task to have on a list. It needed to be itemized, it needed to be broken down into smaller, more achievable goals. And once she did that, I mean, she was a rock star, knocking it out, feeling accomplished, feeling more positive. So, tip number one, chunk it down. Take a look at the things on your brain drain. Are they too general? Are they too big? Okay, simplify those. Tip number two, we're going to time block. Or if you're like, oh, I'm already tuning you out, time block doesn't work for me. Okay, what about this? Batch like with like. So, what that means is we're going to group similar tasks together during a designated time slot. So, maybe it's client calls, maybe it's the admin work that you need to do for your business, maybe it's the creative genius. You're going to focus on one batch at a time. That way you can get in the zone, you can get in the lane. And I know that when we had one of our therapists on, that was one of our bonus guests, she was talking about those that might have ADHD or ADD, that this is particularly important because if they flit from task to task, eventually nothing's going to get done. So it's concentrating on one important task at a time. So this could mean that every Monday you dot dot dot, or it could mean every 30 minutes or an hour of your day, or the first 30 minutes or hour of your day you dot dot dot. Or if you happen to start one of these activities, before you finish it, take a quick check. Look around. What else can you do that's similar and knock it out? So maybe you are working on some admin things. Before you step away from your computer, say, while I'm here, can I quickly update that part of my website? Can I quickly send out some emails since I already have that open and available? Can I go ahead and write out that training since I've got my Word documents open? What can I do now because I'm already in that mindset? And for me, I even do this with errands. So I live on Pensacola Beach, it's a little barrier island. We cross one bridge into where like the post office is and the grocery store and my nail person. Okay, all that. Then we cross one more 3-mile bridge into town where the airport is, the mall is, my kids' school. So when I'm thinking to myself, okay, I need to go do such and such. Maybe I've got a client that I'm dropping something off for. This is a prime example morning. Here in the summer, of course, schedules are off a little bit, which we're going to get to in a second. But my daughter is doing beach volleyball practice. So I needed to go grab her from beach volleyball practice, which is over 2 bridges. I'm like, okay, while I'm over 2 bridges, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop by this client's house. I've got something to grab from her. And then I thought, okay, then when I cross back over the bridge, I need to return something to the UPS store for Amazon. While I'm there, I needed to get my nail fixed. Like I just had one little chip off of my nail. So I need to get my nail fixed. And then I'm going to cross the final bridge. And while I'm there, I've got another client who's at work and I'm going to swing by her work and drop something off for her. So I was thinking like, okay, batching this together so that I don't have to go out separately and do all of these things. I know that might sound silly. And I'm also gonna show my age one more time. When I was a little girl, my cousins and I played this completely non-politically correct game called Park and Shop. You probably never heard of it, and that's fine. But basically, it's so not for the feminists in the room. But it was a board game, and you had your errands for the day that were on little cards. So, you were given, like, shuffle the cards and give them, and you had to go to, like, the haberdasher. Remember, that's the hat person, or the fishmonger, or the whatever, and you had things that happened, like you got a flat tire, or it started raining, or whatever. It was just this fun little board game. We loved it, and we could map out and figure out how to get our errands done, probably before our husbands came home. Where we met them at the door with a cocktail and a warm, hot meal on the stove. Okay, maybe not that part, but what I mean is, how can you map out things that allow you to stay in that headspace, allow you to stay in the zone? That way, you're not like I'm already doing shiny ball, squirrel, squirrel. Okay, that's tip number two. Tip number three, try out, that's the key word, a routine. Try out a routine. It might be different over the summer than it is in the school year, but it's going to give you some security and some consistency for you and your family. I love summer. I love not having that super early alarm. I love having a little bit more freedom. I love being able to watch movies at night with my family. I love all those things. But what I find is I still need a routine over the summer. It does switch a little bit because I have teenagers that sleep in later. So things that I might do normally during the day while they're at school or at night while they're at practice, I move those up. I shift those up earlier in the morning because they're not awake yet. So I just move everything around a little bit. Or maybe your routine is that you work these number of hours and then there's pool time, or then you go outside with the kids, or you just shift them around, maybe with your husband's job, or you've got a girlfriend, and instead of doing your work solo, you meet at the park and you both spend 30 minutes watching each other's kids while the other one gets some work done. But it's important that there is a routine that gives you some structure, because you do get the opportunity, I'm making sure of my correct words, not have to, you get to have the opportunity to still work. Your family still needs money. You still want your business to grow over the summer. So try out a routine. Again, knowing that your summer one's probably going to look a little bit different, but you still want that rhythm to your day. Okay, tip number 4, the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, just tackle it right then and there. Whether that means responding to the email, just do it. Okay. When it comes in, just do it. If it takes 2 minutes or less, make that quick phone call. A lot of times I'll do this in the car too. I'm going to be in the car. I've got 5 minutes before I'm getting to my location. Let me just make that call. Or jotting down a brilliant idea, right? Open up the note section of your phone and jot it down. These tiny victories might seem small and insignificant, but trust me, they add up to a major win when it comes to your productivity. Besides, many things take less time to do than time to think about doing. My husband and I tend to be a little bit on different pages on this. He thinks, okay, I've got to call the insurance company about whatever. So I'm going to need to find a time when I've got about an hour. Now, granted, there are hold times and I get that. But I'm like, you know what? If I've got to call the insurance agency and I'm just going to call them. I'm going to call them right now. I probably am going to leave a message. If I get on hold, that's fine. I can do a few other things, but I would prefer to do it than to think about doing it and then I still have to do it. So 2 minutes or less, go ahead and rinse that dish, put it in there, respond to that text message so that it saves you time from having to do it later. Tip number 5, get help. It might be a mommy's helper. My 13-year-old now is a great mommy's helper. I've got a next door neighbor, and sometimes she just needs to have an hour to do paperwork or to get some things done. My daughter can run over, play with her kids, My daughter loves it because she is a budding entrepreneur herself. She makes some money. The mom loves it too. It gives her an opportunity to get some things done. So maybe that's that. Maybe it's someone to do laundry and dishes. I've had that kind of help in different seasons. Now my kids get to do that job. Maybe it's a virtual assistant. If you don't like somebody coming in your home, so much of the behind the scenes can be done by a VA. Maybe it's a social media manager. I've got another client who, on her very first coaching call with me, she was talking about how she is a creative. It's just what she does, it's what she's good at. It's her giftedness, it's the opportunity that she has to show herself to the world and to have as a business. What she doesn't like is all the tech pieces of it. She doesn't like the tech, she doesn't like the admin. That bogs her down, that weighs her down. And we were talking about this being the thing that was really holding her back. So I made the suggestion that she goes into her local mom's Facebook group. There always is. I'm in one, and yes, sometimes there's some drama, but there is some amazing golden opportunities in there. She made a post of what she was looking for and that she was looking for somebody who was probably a mom looking to make a little extra cash on the side. That very day, oh, and she also I proposed that since she didn't have a lot of money to invest in this, that maybe there was also some bartering that could happen. Within less than a couple of hours, she had responses from women that said, I used to do this for a living full time. I did this for a large company. I was an executive here or there, or this is exactly what I'm looking for after I drop my kids off from school. I could work for a few hours a day for you. And boom, she had help within hours. Not only was she able to take something off her plate that would allow her to make more, we've talked about that in the past. The less you tolerate, the more you make. But she was able to find the perfect fit and someone that she could even do some bartering with. And as I mentioned, my kids, enrolling your family is a great way. Even the littlest can help. And for the family, this can also be a reward system. Last episode, we talked about the difference, as I mentioned, between having to and getting to. Well, when you've enrolled in your family in this, in your business, in your side hustle, then guess what? They're part of the get to, because when everybody plays their part, the family gets to go to the water park, or the family gets to have this vacation or pay for summer camp, things like that. I have my kids everything from writing thank you notes to unpacking orders to my daughter even does the QuickBooks for my business. She can take the phone, snap the photo, itemize it, and it goes into our QuickBooks system. I'd rather pay her. And by the way, she's the quickest, fastest assistant I've ever had to do that. So getting help. Sometimes, of course, we get what we pay for, so we do need to make sure that we mitigate that. All right, tip number 6. Last tip, embrace being unique and different in this world. A lot of times we feel overwhelmed because we're comparing ourselves. We, and I say we collectively as the momtrepreneurs of the world, might compare ourselves to someone who has a traditional job. They get off at 5 o'clock. They have every night free and weekends. Or we might compare ourselves to a stay-at-home mom. And I say that who gets to, or it seems like she gets to just play all summer without any responsibilities that might be financial or might be time responsibilities invested in your business. Or we might even compare ourselves to our previous selves when we were in a different season. But the deal is, none of that serves us and none of that is healthy. I still cling to my friend Erin on the podcast who told us, look down at our feet. This is where you are, and this is where you're supposed to be. So remember that, yes, there are opportunities that can be quite challenging when it comes to the momtrepreneur. There can be times when we're thinking, is this worth it? Or maybe it would be easier to. Or I don't know if I've got what it takes. Or can I really be my own boss? Can I really make the kind of money that I'm wanting to do? Can I really have this harmony? Am I able to prioritize my family, but also have time and space for my business? And the answer, of course, is yes. The answer, of course, is how can I? But remember that there is a beauty in being able to wear the hat of momtrepreneurship. Comparison doesn't serve us or help us. Collaboration and celebration and all of that definitely does. So just remember that too. And I know that it's easier said than done, but we are in this together, momtrepreneur friends. All right, so those are your 6 tips: chunking things down, time blocking or batching like with like, making sure that you have some kind of routine or rhythm, having that 2-minute rule, just get some things done, knock some things out. It's going to feel like a victory, getting help when needed, and embracing being unique. There is a special space and place for all of the entrepreneurs and momtrepreneurs of the world. And next week, I've got a special episode coming up. We've got a duo. You're going to love them. They are 2 momtrepreneurs just killing it out in the world. You're going to laugh. It's going to be a great episode. Just stay tuned for that. Okay, fine. It's the Say It Southern Girls. Go ahead and look them up now so that you're ready for next week. All right. Thanks for listening. I hope that this series has been helpful for you. I'm excited to introduce some new series as well as we complete this summer, as we go into the fall, and as we make the time for what matters. Thanks for listening, and God bless you.
Thank you for joining me on the TikTok podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a 5-star review. Your feedback fuels our mission to help you master your time. Set your alarm for our next episode, and until then, make every moment count.